serving our country. You would think attacks from within our own ranks wouldn't even be on that list. But the number of sexual assaults by fellow soldiers is a huge concern and a growing problem. It's something Representative Niki Tsongas has been trying to address since she first arrived in Congress, and we're pleased to have the Congresswoman join us live from our Beacon Hill studio this morning. And Niki, Happy New Year to you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and Happy New Year to you as well.
First of all, tell us, how big a problem is this? What are we dealing with here?
Well, it's quite a significant problem. Returning female veterans, 1 out of 3 report being victimized by sexual assault, which is a term that is very broadly defined, but nevertheless tells us that it's a very pervasive issue. And for me, it was made very real by early on in my election to Congress. There was a luncheon held for wounded warriors on the Capitol, and I attended, and it was largely filled with people who had suffered very severe physical injuries, but there were several women sitting along the wall, and I went over to say hello to them. And in the course of our discussion, a woman who had was a nurse, had been deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq a number of times. Somehow or other we got to talking about the issue of sexual assault, and she made the comment that she was more wary of her fellow soldiers than she was of the enemy because of the prevalence of this very severe issue, and that as a result, as she would move around a base or wherever she happened to be stationed, she always made sure she had whatever she needed to defend herself. And for me, that was really quite a moment. So we know the statistics, but I am on the Armed Services Committee, on the Military Personnel Subcommittee, which can address this issue, and as a result, I felt it very important to move ahead and try to find ways to deal with it. The services have been very good in terms of trying to be proactive, but despite all of that, much of it seems for naught, and so we've looked for ways to make it much more effective how they deal with this very serious matter.
Well, before we get into the specifics of what the new law will do, how was this handled in the past? Were these allegations taken seriously? Were there problems for those who were bringing them up and trying to help out and bring light to the situation?
Well, I think there have been a lot of issues that we've sort of become aware of. One is that in the end, it's the commander who has the responsibility to deal with any allegations of sexual assault. They are not always well trained in how to deal with these issues. Victims that come forward feel very uncertain about what their rights are, who is going to be their advocate. That's another matter. The various services deal with this in different ways, even as they focus on it and try to come up with ways to address it. Each one does it very differently. As a result, it's difficult for Congress to have adequate oversight, given that we're looking at very different ways of approaching this matter. So there are lots of issues that we need to look at as we move forward.
And how does the new law actually help improve this and change things?
Well, it does a number of things. One says that all the services have to come up with a common approach, use common language, common processes. It puts one individual in the Department of Defense, makes that individual responsible for oversight of what the services are doing. This is an important step forward. One of the things we found is that victims often feel at sea. They really don't know what their rights are, who their advocate is. And so we propose that anybody who is a victim would have access to legal counsel. We were not able to achieve that, but we did obtain a requirement that the Defense Department assess the feasibility of providing legal counsel to anybody who's a victim. So that's an important step forward. But I think the reality is this is just a beginning. There's much work to be done, and I also want to thank Senator Kerry, who has pushed this forward on the Senate side.
And lastly, Congresswoman, before we let you go to shift gears just a little bit, what's it going to be like for you now in Washington? You get a different atmosphere now that you're a member of the minority party in the House.
Well, it's going to be quite different. I go down there today. We're sworn in tomorrow. I see that one of the first votes that we are going to be asked to make is the new leadership is going to put forward a vote to repeal the health care legislation Obviously, I was a strong supporter of health care reform. I will strongly oppose any such efforts. Just the issue of gender ratings, as we are talking about women, as a system currently stands, women can be charged up to 4 times more than men for the same health insurance coverage. As a result of reform, gender rating is eliminated, and that's the kind of reform I certainly don't want to see go away.
Congresswoman Niki Tsongas joining us live from our Beacon Hill studio this morning. We appreciate your time and safe travels to D.C.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, Kim, let's get over to you.
Thanks, Gene. 7:55 now, and we have advice for stay-at-home moms who are looking to return to the workplace. Still coming your way here on the Fox 25 Morning News. We're talking to an author who wants to help you relaunch